My name is Sheila. I'm 31, and I work as a programmer for a major tech firm. My salary is solid, enough that I bought my own condo a few years ago. I live by myself, and honestly, I prefer it that way. My routine is simple: work, home, and the occasional outing with friends. I don't see my parents much, maybe once or twice a month, which seems to suit everyone just fine. My family is small. There's my mom and dad, who used to run a little coffee shop. Then there's my older sister, Nancy. She's 35, married, and has a 5-year-old son. Nancy and I never really bonded as kids. She always acted superior, probably because she got married first and had a child. My parents always seemed to favor her, too. But I stopped letting it bother me a long time ago. When I was 17, my grandmother passed away. She'd been ill for years, so it wasn't unexpected. My parents told me she'd left everything to them in her will, mainly her house. I didn't question it at the time, I was just a grieving teenager. The house was a nice one, in a good neighborhood. My parents moved in and enjoyed a comfortable life there for years. Everything changed 2 years ago. One evening, my parents showed up at my condo, both looking anxious and frazzled. My dad was sweating, and my mom kept wringing her hands. They sat down and told me their coffee shop was failing. They were on the brink of bankruptcy and needed money fast. How much? I asked. $200,000, my dad replied, avoiding my gaze. I nearly choked. That was a huge sum. Then my mom explained their plan: if I gave them the money, they'd transfer the house, my grandmother's old place, into my name. They said it was worth much more than $200,000, so it would be a great deal for me. I'd get a property, and they could save their business. I took a day to think it over. I had the money saved up from years of hard work and careful spending, and owning another property seemed like a smart move. So I agreed. We handled everything quickly: lawyers, paperwork, signatures, the whole process. Within 2 weeks, the house was legally mine. My parents kept living there, which I was fine with. They were my parents, after all. I started covering the property taxes and all the monthly bills, utilities, internet, cable, everything. It cost me a few $100s a month, but I could manage it. Life settled back into its usual rhythm. I kept working, living my life. My parents seemed relieved, and their business seemed to recover. I didn't pry. Nancy and her family lived in a rented apartment across town, and we only saw each other at holidays. That brings me to last month. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I decided to stop by my parents' house. I hadn't visited in about 3 weeks and thought I should check in. When I arrived around 4 p.m., the driveway was crowded with cars. My parents only had one, and I didn't recognize the other two. I let myself in with my key and immediately froze. The living room was filled with boxes, dozens of them. There was furniture I'd never seen before, and kids' toys scattered everywhere. Standing in the middle of the chaos were Nancy, her husband, and their child. Nancy looked up and greeted me like nothing was out of the ordinary. "Oh, hey, Sheila." I stared at her. "What's going on?" My mom came out of the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. "Oh, honey, you're here. We were going to call you." "Call me about what? Why are there boxes everywhere? Why is Nancy here with all her stuff?" My dad appeared, looking uneasy. "Well, your sister and her family are going to stay with us for a while." "Stay?" "It looks like they're moving in." Nancy folded her arms. "We are moving in. We had to end our lease. We're having some financial trouble, and this was the best solution." I looked at her, then at my parents. "And nobody thought to ask me?" My mom frowned. "Ask you? Why would we need to ask you?" "Because this is my house," I said, my voice rising. "I own this place. You can't just move people in without telling me. My dad's face turned red. Don't make a scene, Sheila. This is family property. We have every right to let our daughter live here. Your roof? Are you serious? This isn't your house anymore. You signed it over to me 2 years ago. I've been paying every bill since then. This is my property, and I decide who lives here. Nancy actually laughed. Wow. Listen to you. You think you run this family now? Just because you make good money, you think you can control us all. That's not what this is about, I said, trying to keep calm. It's about respecting property and basic communication. We're not letting you set the rules anymore, Nancy snapped. And honestly, you shouldn't even come around here. This is our home now. Then she really let loose, calling me selfish and greedy, saying I'd always acted superior. My parents just stood there, letting her rant. Finally, I turned to them. Are you going to say anything? My dad stepped forward. Nancy's right. You have no right to keep your sister out. This house belonged to your grandmother. It's been in our family for years. And now it's mine, I said firmly. I have the deed. That's when everything blew up. My mom started yelling that I was cold and ungrateful. My dad called me selfish. Nancy screamed that I'd always been jealous of her. It turned into a shouting match, everyone talking over each other. Then my dad grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the door. You've upset everyone enough. You're ruining the mood. Get out. He actually shoved me outside and slammed the door. I stood there in shock as rain started pouring down. Through the window, I could see Nancy and her husband unpacking, making themselves at home. My parents had disappeared into another room. I was standing in the rain, drenched, staring at my own house after being thrown out by my own family. I stood there for a few minutes, soaked, watching my sister move into my house. Then I turned, got in my car, and drove home. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept replaying what had happened. My own father had physically thrown me out. My own family had kicked me out of my own property. When I got back to my condo, I changed out of my wet clothes and sat on the couch, staring at the wall. I was furious. Not just angry, but burning with a deep rage. They thought they could just take over my house. They thought I'd just let it happen. I grabbed my phone and started making calls. First, I called the internet provider. When the rep answered, I gave them the address and my account info. I need to disconnect the internet at this address immediately. May I ask why you're canceling? I don't need it anymore. I'm the account holder and the property owner. Just disconnect it. We can have a technician out by tomorrow afternoon. Perfect. Next, I called the cable company. Same conversation. Then the electric company. That one took a bit more convincing, but eventually they agreed to shut off service within 24 hours. If you need to restore service, just call us, the rep said. I'll do that if needed, I replied. I hung up, feeling a small sense of satisfaction. Let them sit in the dark for a while. Let them remember who actually owns that house. That evening, my phone blew up. First my mom called, then my dad, then Nancy, then all three of them repeatedly. I let every call go to voicemail. Then the texts started. Nancy's were the most aggressive. What did you do? The power's out. The internet's gone. You can't do this to us. We have a child here. I'm calling the police. I'm taking you to court. You're making this house unlivable on purpose. I read all the messages, then sent one reply to the group chat. You can try the police or court if you want. But remember who owns that house. All the utilities are in my name. I pay for everything, and I can turn them off whenever I want. Then I muted the chat and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up with a clear head. I called Lisa, a college friend who's now a lawyer. We'd kept in touch, and I trusted her. I made an appointment for that afternoon. When I arrived, she could tell something was wrong just by looking at me. "What happened?" she asked, motioning for me to sit. I told her everything, from my parents asking for money 2 years ago, to signing over the house, to yesterday's disaster. She listened, taking notes. When I finished, she set her pen down. "First, I'll prepare an eviction notice for your parents and your sister's family. You'll need to give them 30 days to leave. That's the legal requirement." 30 days? I repeated. Yes. And just so you know, they have no legal rights to that house. Your parents have only been living there because you allowed it. You can revoke that permission at any time. I nodded, relieved the law was on my side. Then Lisa gave me a thoughtful look. "Can I ask you something? I've never liked the story about your grandmother leaving everything to your parents instead of you." I frowned. "What do you mean? Your grandmother died when you were 17, right? And you two were close. But everything supposedly went to your parents. That's what they told you. They showed you the will. But didn't you once mention your mom and grandmother had a terrible relationship? That they barely spoke for years before she died?" I thought about it. Yeah, that's true. They fought a lot. My grandmother thought my mom was bad with money. They hardly talked at all those last years. Doesn't that seem strange? Why would your grandmother leave everything to someone she couldn't stand? I sat there, stunned. I'd never questioned it before. I'd been 17, grieving, and just accepted what my parents said. "What are you suggesting?" I asked. Lisa tapped her pen. "I think we should check the will. I can request the probate documents from the county. Let's see what they actually say." "Okay," I said slowly. "Do it." She nodded, made a note, then printed the eviction notice, had me sign it, and handed it to me. "Mail this to them. Certified mail, return receipt requested. That way you have proof they got it." I left her office and went straight to the post office. I sent the notice certified mail and felt a small sense of accomplishment. At least I was doing something. 3 days later, Lisa called. Her voice was tense, excited, and serious. "Sheila, you need to come to my office right now. I found something important." "What is it?" "Just come. You need to see this in person." I drove over, my stomach in knots. When I arrived, Lisa motioned for me to sit. "You'll want to be sitting for this." She slid a document across the desk. "This is your grandmother's actual will, the one filed with the court." My hands shook as I read it. My grandmother had left her house to me. Not to my parents, to me. The will clearly stated that when I turned 18, the property would be transferred to my name. "I don't understand," I whispered. My parents showed me a will that left everything to my mom. Lisa pulled out another document. "This is a renunciation of inheritance filed on your behalf when you were 17, right after your grandmother died. It says you declined the inheritance, so everything went to your mother." I looked at the signature. It was supposed to be mine, but I'd never signed anything like that. I'd never even seen it before. "I didn't sign this," I said. "I know," Lisa replied quietly. "Your parents forged your signature. They stole your inheritance." The room spun. I gripped the desk to steady myself. "So when they asked me for $200,000 2 years ago and said they'd give me the house in return, they were selling you something that already belonged to you," Lisa finished. "They scammed you twice. First, they took your inheritance. Then, they made you buy it back." I felt sick. My own parents had done this to me. They'd lied to me for 14 years. They watched me hand over $200,000 for a house that was legally mine all along. What do I do? I asked. Lisa leaned in. Here's the thing. Your parents could claim you gave them the money just to help their business, not for the house. Do you have proof the payment was for the property? I thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I saved all our texts and emails from back then. My mom specifically wrote that they'd transfer the house to me in exchange for the money. I have it all. Lisa smiled. That's great. Now we can prove fraud. They knowingly sold you property that was already yours, and they did it by deceiving you. What happens now? I asked. Now things get interesting. Be ready for a fight. Your family won't take this well. She was right. That same day, my phone blew up again. Dozens of calls from my parents and Nancy. I figured they'd gotten the eviction notice. I didn't answer. Instead, I listened to their voicemails. My mom sounded frantic. Sheila, what is this eviction notice? You can't kick us out. This is our home. Call me back now. My dad was angry. You're really going to throw your own family out? What kind of daughter are you? Nancy's message was the longest and most dramatic. Because of you, my child could be homeless. My own sister is doing this to me. You're heartless. You're evil. I hope you're happy. I deleted all the voicemails and sent one text. All future communication goes through my lawyer. Do not contact me directly again. But they didn't stop. They got other relatives involved. Suddenly, I was getting calls from aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone had an opinion. Most thought I was being cruel. They're your parents, my aunt said. Family helps family. I blocked her. My uncle tried a different approach. Look, I know you're upset, but kicking them out isn't the answer. Can't you all talk this out? I blocked him, too. The most persistent relatives got blocked right away. I didn't have the energy to explain myself to people who didn't care about my side. Then one night, there was loud knocking at my condo door. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents and Nancy. My dad was pounding on the door. Sheila, open up. We need to talk. I didn't open the door. I spoke through it. I have nothing to say to you. Everything goes through my lawyer now. Please, my mom said, sounding like she was crying. We made a mistake. We misunderstood. Can't we work this out? We're family. You should have thought about that before you kicked me out of my own house, I said. Nancy started yelling. You're going to destroy this family over money? Over a house? What kind of person are you? The kind of person who doesn't let people steal from her, I replied. My dad started pounding again. Let us in. We're not leaving until you talk to us. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police, I said loudly. Silence. Then I heard them walk away. I watched as they got in their car and drove off. My hands were shaking. I'd never spoken to my parents like that, but I also felt a strange sense of power. I wasn't backing down. A week later, Lisa called. Your parents filed a lawsuit against you. They're claiming you're illegally evicting them and demanding compensation for emotional distress and for cutting off the utilities. I wasn't surprised. What do we do? We file a counterclaim, fraud, forgery, theft. We have all the evidence. Do it, I said. The counterclaim was filed the next day. That's when my mom showed up at my door again, this time alone. She looked awful, like she hadn't slept in days. You need to drop the lawsuit, she said through the door. If you don't, your father and I could face criminal charges. You should have thought about that before you forged my signature and stole my inheritance, I replied. We're your parents. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, and this is how you repay us? You're criminals, I said flatly. You committed fraud. You deserve whatever happens. I heard her crying, but I didn't open the door. After a few minutes, she left. The trial was set for 3 weeks later. I spent that time gathering every piece of evidence, texts, emails, bank records, everything. Lisa assured me we had a strong case. The trial took place on a cold Tuesday morning. I wore my best professional clothes and met Lisa at the courthouse. My parents were already there with their lawyer, and Nancy sat behind them. None of them would look at me. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s. She listened to my parents' lawyer first. He argued I was illegally evicting them and had made the house unlivable by cutting off utilities. The whole thing took maybe 10 minutes. The judge reviewed their evidence and dismissed their case immediately. The plaintiff has no legal standing. Miss Sheila owns the property and can evict tenants as she wishes. Case dismissed. My parents' lawyer looked stunned. The whole thing was over in 15 minutes. Then it was time for my counterclaim. Lisa presented everything, the real will, the forged renunciation, the messages proving my parents sold me my own house, the bank records. It was all there, clear as day. The judge examined each document. Then she looked at my parents. Did you forge your daughter's signature on this renunciation? My dad mumbled something, but the judge cut him off. Yes or no? We thought we were doing what was best, my mom said weakly. That's not an answer. Neither of them responded. The judge's verdict was swift. My parents had forged my signature, stolen my inheritance, and defrauded me of $200,000. Each received 2 years probation. They were ordered to repay the full $200,000 plus $50,000 for emotional distress and cover all court costs. When the judge announced the sentence, my mom broke down sobbing. My dad clutched his chest like he was having a heart attack. Nancy jumped up and screamed at me. You're heartless. You're an ungrateful daughter. I hope you're happy. Security had to escort her out. I sat there numb. I'd won, but it didn't feel like a victory. It just felt like something was over. My parents and Nancy were evicted from the house right after the trial. Within 2 weeks, my parents sold their coffee shop to pay me what they owed. The money showed up in my account, along with the damages. Some relatives reached out to say they understood. Others sent nasty messages, calling me cruel. I blocked the nasty ones and stayed polite with the supportive ones. A couple months later, I heard through mutual friends that my parents had bought a rundown house on the edge of town with what little money they had left. Nancy and her family moved in with them. Apparently, they were all struggling, and both my parents had to get jobs at a local supermarket just to get by. I felt nothing when I heard that. Maybe I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. They made their choices. I sold my grandmother's house. After everything, I couldn't bear to keep it. Then I sold my condo and moved to another state. My company let me work remotely, so I didn't have to quit. 6 months have passed since the trial. I haven't spoken to my parents or Nancy, and I don't plan to. From what I hear, they're still barely scraping by. The only person I feel sorry for is my nephew. He's just a kid, and none of this is his fault. So I set up a trust fund for his education. If he wants to reach out when he's older, I'll gladly give him access. He deserves better than the mess his family made. As for my parents and Nancy, they're dead to me. They stole from me twice and only showed regret when they got caught. That's not family. That's just people I share DNA with. I'm doing well now. Actually, I'm thriving. I have a great job, a new start, and I'm finally free from all their drama. Some people say I went too far, that I should have forgiven them. But I don't see it that way. I see it as standing up for myself and refusing to be a victim. And if I had to, I'd